Wonderful, wonderful. Greetings, everyone. Welcome to United Black Communities program for this evening. This is the second forum for the year. United Black
First,
Community. Well, first, you're right. It's February, but it is the first forum. Absolutely. Jumping ahead. Yeah. We start off in February. We generally, we're very engaged in Kwanzaa, so usually we take that January off, and from February all the way until September, we have something every month, usually on the third Friday of the month, and we usually kick off with the topic of our relationship with science in the future. But I'm gonna let someone else do the intro for that. I welcome all of you all, and if obviously if you're here with us, hopefully you're on our mailing list. If you're not on our mailing list, if you didn't get an email directly from us, you can put your email in the chat, and we'll make sure to add you in the mailing list, or you can send an email directly to the host, and we'll add you to the email list. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce Baba Rasafikwe Osi. We always want to acknowledge and also welcome our ancestors. We are a community. The United Black community is not just a physical. We are a community that transcends the physical world, and we need to acknowledge and always call those other members of our community to be with us. So without further ado, Baba Rasafikwe Osi.
Sana Baba, Dr. Kalechi, and again, Bargani, Lafayette, peace and blessings to everyone who's joined us tonight on this, our first forum for the year 2024, as Baba Kalechi said. And of course, we always like to start with our esteemed in-house engineer, Baba Kamal Siddiqui. So it's always customary for us to have a libation to give thanks to the ancestors, to the Creator, the Obasoon, and to pay homage and set this proper spiritual tone for our forums. So we would like to open with divine spiritual blessings of peace, love, power, joy, happiness, progress, and visionary greetings to everyone, and cosmic African vibrations in the spirit of our topic for tonight, how we can use AI, as we sometimes call it, African intelligence, to pave the way for our journey into the future as we continue to organize our community, move forward in developing proper strategies and methodologies to bring about total African liberation throughout the planet. So we want to give thanks to all of those who have joined us tonight. We want to give thanks again to the Creator, to the ancestors, as we seek the power of their goodness and their mercy and their blessings that they bestow upon us every time we come together. So all praise are due, peace and blessings. We like to be in the spirit of unity, practicing in Guzu Saba and doing what we need to do in order to uplift ourselves, educate ourselves, and enlighten ourselves with knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Sante Sana, peace and blessings.
Yes.
Okay, so we now turn it over to Baba Kaumba.
Yes, family. It is a great pleasure. We introduce our keynote speaker for tonight, a long distance runner, And when I say long distance runner, I'm not saying it mildly. This is really a long distance runner. Baba Kamal Siddiqui. He's a retired engineer, uh, activist, scuba diver. Uh, I mean, you name it. This brother is part is has done it, and he's been around the world. I don't know how many times. He can let you know, but uh, long distance runner Baba Kamal Siddiqui, and he usually for the past, I don't know, 10, 15 years, he's has always opened up United Black Communities monthly forums with some real dynamic and thought-provoking topics. And today it will be no other than AI, artificial intelligence. We've been hearing a whole lot about it. So I think, and I hope today, once we leave this forum today, we will have more clarity and more understanding about what AI actually is and basically how it can benefit us as a community and as a people. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce my brother, our brother, Baba Kamal Siddiqui.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Imam. I appreciate that introduction. So I'll wait till the host switch the pen, and we can get started.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Hello, everyone. Thank you for taking this time to participate in this first of the 2024 forums of the United Black Community. It's an opportunity and pleasure to be here. But before we get started, as I always do when I do at least my presentations, I know we had libations, but you know, I recognize and very in touch with the fact that I'm standing on shoulders. I'm standing on those courageous people that came before me, what I call my igungun. So I have to acknowledge my igungun. And so before we get started, that's what I'm going to do. So please allow me to do that. So I'm going to share my screen. And hopefully you can still see and hear me, or at least hear me. And so we'll get started. This is my ancestral memorial. Yeah, 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 ocean. Yeah, yeah, yo, yeah, yeah, yo, yeah, yeah, ocean. Yeah, oh, shoot. Oh, yeah, yeah, ocean is the spirit of the river. Open your hands, she's a sweet and steady giver. She'll turn your tears of sadness into gladness. Praises to ocean. Yeah, yeah, ocean is the spirit of the river. Open your hands, she's a sweet and steady giver. She'll turn your tears of sadness into gladness. Praises to ocean. Yeah. Creator, Ty, Oludumare, Odumakoma, and Yame, Aman, Neter, all traditional African names for the one. Abosun, Orisha, Loa, Neteru, aspects of the divine, Ensamanfo, Sheps, Egungun, ancestors on whose shoulders we stand. Black notes, libation, a spiritual offering, a prayer with props to God, to earth, with water, fire, air, breath of life of the Creator, divine presence, wisdom, power, connecting us to ancestors, Queen Nzinga, Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, Kwame Nkrumah, Patrice Lumumba, Malcolm X, Stephen Biko, connecting us to ancestors, struggles to progress, past to present, enlightenment to African cultural, spiritual space, gracing the cosmos, the universe with aspects of the all, encompassing our entire being, singing in harmony with joy, in pleasure, beyond measure, in passion for life, voiced like the song of the river, flowing with the sensual grace of Oshun. Oshun, Teheru, Nana Esi, Oshun, representing the beautiful, the feminine features of life, lightly dancing to a timeless rhythm, in tune with the tone of a spiritual offering, a prayer with props to the highest, down to earth with water, fire, air, breath of life of the Creator, divine presence, wisdom, power, like the nucleus, the core, black, sweet, black, woman, energy, strength, black, ash, energy, complementing, black, woman, energy, unifying, connecting us to ancestors. Martin Luther King, Queen T, Imhotep, Zumbi, David Walker, Nat Turner, Ida B. Wells, Marcus Garvey, Medgar Evers, Fannie Lou Hamer, Fred Hampton, George Jackson, Bob Marley, Peter Tosh, John Henry Clark, Fela, Anikulapo Muti, connecting us to ancestors, struggles to progress, past to present to future, transcending space.
Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. Hopefully everyone can hear me well with that. Okay, we can proceed now. So again, thank you all for coming and sharing this moment to have this what I consider more so hopefully a dialogue discussion. That's more so a presentation or me, just talking to you all because the topic is so critical that I think it's very critical. Things are moving fast in this space. We call this digital space or the space of artificial intelligence. And it's going to impact us in ways that we don't even know yet. And so I think it's very important for us as a community to have a deep level of awareness of these technologies and how they're going to affect our lives. And we can mitigate them in some ways so it doesn't affect our lives in a negative way. But hopefully we can talk about some of these ideas and concepts as we go forward. So I titled this presentation AI, Artificial Intelligence or Ancestral Insight, Implications, Risk, and Opportunities for Black Life. And the presentation description, if I can just hide that. The presentation description reads something like this. For better or worse, the emerging technology of artificial intelligence will have a profound transformational impact on our civil society. Now, deeply embedded in this data-driven technology are significant biases against Black people. So given the massive historic trauma and ongoing profound mistreatment suffered by people of African descent across the African diaspora under the global system of racism and white supremacy, I think it's imperative that we as Black folk develop a deeper understanding of AI, both as a weapon and tools available for our strategic use. So this forum is going to try to explore some of those ideas and explain, hopefully, a few strategies for survival and how we can continue to move forward as a people and expressing our own humanity. So in that context, as Imamu mentioned, I've been kicking off these forums for quite a while. So back in 2007, I started with this piece, African Origins of Science and Mathematics, a New Paradigm for Scientific Thinking. And in that presentation, I alluded to some emerging technologies as well. There was discussions about a post-human future, that is, machines taking over from human beings. I used to have some sort of integration of cyborgs taken over, where biological humans and machines are integrated into one entity, and those entities will take shape and basically lead a civil society. So that was 2007, and in 2000, Kelechi, if I can ask you, please, when folks come in, you can admit them right away because it's interfering with at least my presentation here. I appreciate it. So, so in 2010, I did another presentation to the community called Science, God, and Society, a revolutionary search for spiritual meaning in a digital world, when it was very evident that these emerging technologies was impacting or putting out a perspective or creating a narrative of what it meant to be not human, but post-human. And so I sort of saw the need to sort of, how can we retain, our identity as a human being, as a people of African descent in these emerging technologies in this digital world. And right now, we find ourselves fully immersed in this digital world. And right after that, in 2011, I followed that with a very insightful presentation, I thought, called "The Revolution Will Be Digitized: Racial Implications of Emerging Digital Technologies in a Post-Human Future." So some of that piece is still relevant now, and so I have some of that content in this presentation. Hopefully, we can have some dialogue and questions and good discussions and bring out some insights how we collectively can move forward in this post-human digital world with these emerging technologies, and with us in positions of what it seems in some cases powerlessness, where the 1% is really driving these digital technologies and other 99% are basically suffering from massive distractions and other things that not allowing us to really fully understand the implications of these emerging technologies. So with that, I thought we'd kick it off with a definition of what is artificial intelligence. I'm assuming everyone have, some idea of what it is. It's in the news quite frequently. If you don't, I would encourage you to please get a clear definition, not of artificial intelligence, how it works, what it is, how it's going to impact you, and hopefully we can get some of that out of this presentation. But generally, the definition is it's just a branch of computer science, right, that deals with certain creation of intelligent agents or machines, if you will, which are systems that can reason, learn, act autonomously, do tasks, make decisions, and so forth and so on. Those agents or machines are available to us right now. But the key to these machines and agents operating effectively is those machines, and I should make it very clear, the programmers of those machines, giving those machines access to a massive amount of data. Without a massive amount of data, having access to that data, these machines effectively becomes ineffective. So this ideal or this concept built around AI called large language models, which basically is the database that includes a tremendous amount of data content books, articles, codes, videos, texts, websites, and a myriad of other information that's out on the internet. And what these AI machine does is that they basically scour the internet for information, and then bring it back and regurgitate that to you as a user of that particular tool. And you'll see later on, I guess, think it's the next slide here. There's uh, right now the thinking is there's three types of AI, artificial intelligence. And I would say right now we're sort of emerging out of, we've been in this stage one or first phase for quite a while, where these AI machines have been learning from a massive amount of data, taking initiative to create things on their own, uh, from writing text, doing diagnostics, and so forth and so on. So, as with any sort of technology, you know, there's benefits and there's adverse effects as well. And so we'll talk about that a little later on. But this first stage we begin to merge out of, where machines have learned a great amount of capability, if you will, have access to a lot of data and information. And that stage two is what's kind of called the AI general intelligence, where machines will begin to take over human functions and what things that human actually begin to, in a way, master human beings. And that's what some of the things that, as you'll see later on, some people in the field kind of fear that we've gone too far. We don't have enough regulation, if you will, in place to prevent a machine takeover, if you will, of human society. And the final stage, of course, is just machine consciousness, where machines become basically human-like, if you will. And of course, when that happens, who knows what the future will be or what society will look like. I'm going to admit these people. So those are the three stages of artificial intelligence. Again, so to keep that in mind, we're sort of like in phase one right now. It's called um, uh, the machine learning phase, or the weak phase of AI. And then stage two being general intelligence, where that's the strong phase. And stage three they call the super intelligence. Again, where machines completely take over human function and become basically sentient. And some people think that is possible. So there's a lot of voluminous amount of material out there now. People are taking advantage of the emergence of AI financially and writing a lot of books. There's a lot of people in the industry. And I just want to make it clear right now, as it was introduced, I'm an engineer. I'm not an AI specialist. I don't work in the space of AI, but I have some friends of mine. We've been thinking about this for quite a while. Brother in Chicago, Dr. Carl Spite and Hunter Adams, and others, we've been thinking about this in terms of technology and its implications on society for quite a while, particularly implications on Black life. So I just want to make that clear, but I'm not coming at this as a neophyte. I do have some background here. So this book was written by this gentleman named Gaddad. He's Mohammed Gaddad. He used to work for Google. He was the former chief of business officer for Google, but working on AI. And he began to think about what Google was doing and other these major AI corporations like Apple and others, OpenAI, what they was doing. And he became, I guess, disheartened and felt that it was a need to alert society on the real risk and threats of AI. So, but in his book called Scary Smart, The Future of Artificial Intelligence, how you can save our world, he talks about the three inevitabilities of AI. One, that AI will happen, and we can kind of modify that now. AI is happening, right? And that AI will outsmart humans. Well, ain't gotten quite there yet. That's sort of like stage two I talked about earlier. And then he thinks the last inevitability that very bad things will happen. And there's a whole host of other individuals that work in the AI industry or used to that think that bad things will happen. And it's been articulated in a lot of different medias and so forth. But those who wants to really profit from AI, it's a battle of narratives right now. We can control the bad things. We can have regulations in place. People will be ethical and do the right thing, right? But that is yet to see as AI continue to become more and more powerful, and people have access to these tools and do all sorts of things. We're going to see how the bad things kind of plays out. But for us, you have to keep in mind that, as I mentioned, these AI tools requires a massive amount of data, right? And we as a people historically, information about us, and particularly in the historical record, that's embedded in this massive amount of data, has not been in our favor, if you will, a part of our narrative that paints us as a good picture, particularly coming through the transatlantic era of African enslavement, whole era of racism. And we're living in this atmosphere now of what we call this global system of white supremacy. So all that information is embedded in these databases, and all these AI tools have access to that information. So like facial recognition, that's one of the many tools of AI. And folks that got smartphones, some of them have facial recognition capability. And it's the technology is basically unescapable now. I remember when I'm coming back into the country, you have to go through immigration to show your passport, and the officer look at you and compare your picture and all that. The last time, a couple of weeks ago, actually, coming from Mozambique, I just simply walked straight through immigration and passed the guy at the immigration desk, and he looked at you. Okay, Mr. Sadiqa, you clear to go. So that I knew it was facial recognition. He knew when I entered the airport. He knew when I came through the queue there, and there's no need for me to show him anything. They already got the data information on me. So facial recognition technology is inescapable. If you've been into any public space, all they need is about 7 key data points on you, and you're in the system, in the global system of artificial intelligence. If you've been in airports, you've been in even stores here locally, actually. There was a report in the Washington Post here just December. Rite Aid had deployed this facial recognition technology to prevent theft, shoplifting. But there's flaws in the technology that's, as I said earlier, embedded in this data. This Washington Post article said an employee searched an 11-year-old girl because of a false facial recognition match, leaving her so distraught that her mother missed work, and the Federal Trade Commission said in a federal court complaint. Another example where the employee called the police on a Black customer after the technology mistook her for the actual target who was doing the thievery, a white woman with blonde hair. They went on to say the next day concerning the same article that Rite Aid has been making mistakes all along, that the system had generated more than 2,000 match alerts for the same person in a faraway store around the same time, even though the scenarios was impossible or implausible. In one case, the system generated more than 900 match alerts for a single person over a 5-day period across 100 stores in these metropolitan areas. So the point here is that, there's huge errors embedded in the data, and these things are far from perfect. We have these GPS that we use now to navigate through cities, MapQuest and Google Maps and so forth. I remember when I used to go to the city, it used to be great to just kind of get lost and find my own way, But now the map will take you through the city and you have no idea where you are until you end up where you are. So there's downsides and upsides. It's good to be, get some assistance to navigate. But yet again, it takes you consciously out of the environment where you just embedded into this application, this machine. So I always say never believe the machine. I'm sure you all have had challenges with GPS in your cars and so forth. So you have to be intuitive. You have to know what the machine is telling you and have some awareness all the time of your surroundings, and never believe the machine. The machine tell you to turn right. It has no idea what right turn looks like, right? So you have to have some awareness there. There's a sister named Joy Bulamwini. You probably heard of her. She's from Ghana. She done her work, got a PhD from MIT, and she was working in the media lab when she was doing her graduate work. And she found incredible bias in the system in terms of recognizing even famous Black folk. So what I want to do right now is just share her video. Some of you might have seen it, but she did this very powerful poem. She called "Ain't I a Woman?" So I'm going to stop this share and start another share, and so we can just take a quick peek at this video that she put together. I'm going to share my screen again, and I think I can pull it up here. Yep, 1 second. Get this out of the way. And so here's her poem. Listen carefully. Can you see that?
Yeah, bro.
My heart smiles as I bask in their legacies, knowing their lives have altered many destinies. In her eyes, I see my mother's poise. In her face, I glimpse my auntie's grace. In this case of deja vu, a 19th century question comes into view. In a time when Sojourner Truth asks, "Ain't I a woman?" Today, we pose this question to new powers, making bets on artificial intelligence, hope towers. The Amazonians peek through windows blocking deep blues as faces increment scars. Old burns, new urns, collecting data chronicling our past, often forgetting to deal with gender, race, and class. Again, I ask, ain't I a woman? Face by face, the answers seem uncertain. Young and old, proud icons are dismissed. Can machines ever see my queens as I view them? Can machines ever see our grandmothers as we knew them? Ida B. Wells, data science pioneer, hanging facts, stacking stats on the lynching of humanity, teaching truths hidden in data, each entry and omission, a person worthy of respect. Shirley Chisholm, unbought and unbossed, the first Black Congresswoman, but not the first to be misunderstood by machines well-versed in data-driven mistakes. Michelle Obama, unabashed and unafraid to wear her crown of history, yet her crown seems a mystery to systems unsure of her hair. A wig, a bouffant, a toupee, maybe not. Are there no words for our braids and our locks? Does relaxed hair and sunny skin make Oprah the first lady? Even for her face, well known, some algorithms fault her, echoing sentiments that strong women are men. We laugh, celebrating the successes of our sisters with serena smiles. No label is worthy of our beauty.
So I want to stop this share and go back to the slide presentation. But as you can see, these systems are far from being perfect. And Joy Bulamwini is doing some very good work in terms of highlighting these issues. She actually has published a book called Unmasking AI, and her mission to protect what is human in a world of machines. She's created this organization called Algorithmic Justice League, and you can see there, I won't go through all of them, some of her primary objectives in battling algorithmic injustice. People need to have a choice. There should be accountability. The creators of AI, which is very, very few of people of color, it should reflect the society. And the data, access to data, clean data, unbiased data, it should not destine you to unjust discrimination. And you shouldn't be judged by the content of a data profile, actually. Okay. And the bottom one, the AI is for the people as a whole and not just a privileged few. So this is keep in mind, this is not a anti-AI presentation, right? I mean, as I said earlier, we've been looking at technologies and implications on Black folks for quite a while, and my definition of technology is just a use of a tool, a technique. It's a useful tool, and African people has been using technology, if you will, tools for quite a while. But right now, AI is taking it beyond that simple ideal of a tool to something that's going to drive the future of humanity, right? One of those tools is called chat box, AI chat box. Hopefully all of you all have seen or heard or played with one of these chat boxes. There's many of them out there, but the one, excuse me, the one that hit the street first is called Chat GPT. And I've used it and done several things with it. It has great potential, but it can also cause great damage. Here's an example here where just the other day, actually, on February 21st, the machine went wild and people began to anthropomorphize the machine and saying that ChatGPT was giving crazy answers and things that they didn't understand. It actually went berserk, if I can use that adjective. But it's saying that this machine had a stroke. It went insane. It was rambling. So we tend to anthropomorphize these machines and give them human qualities, I think, which does not help us to perceive these things, these agents, or these machines as what they are, just machines that's been programmed with algorithms created by other folks that accessing data that is deeply biases embedded in them. I did a little query with Chat GPT, actually. On the left side there, I just asked it a simple question. How many developed countries are in Africa? And Chat GPT responded, as of my last update, it just came out last year, right? There are generally no countries in Africa classified as developed. Out of 53 countries, none are classified as developed. So I posed the same question about Europe. How many countries in Europe are developed? And ChatGPT says several countries in Europe are typically considered developed based on economic and social indicators and so forth and so on. So I've traveled to maybe 20 countries in Africa, if not maybe a little less. And I've seen a lot of development in Africa, and I've seen a lot of sense of what it means to be human on the continent of Africa. So the metrics they're using for development maybe does not apply when they're looking at the continent of Africa. This thing is in the way here. I apologize for that. I can't make it disappear here. But there are benefits and disbenefits, as I mentioned earlier, to AI. And we're reaping some of those benefits now. In medicine and healthcare, for example, is finding incredible ways to, excuse me, to improve the healthcare, at least for human beings. I don't know if we heard the recent report late last year, I believe, of the CRISPR technology that was used to find a cure for at least some effective medicine for sickle cell anemia, which definitely would benefit Black folk, people of color. Manufacturing is making incredible headways in manufacturing, doing things more efficiently. It can work all day. It don't have to punch a clock and all that. But some of the disbenefits, of course, is it's replacing people. People are losing, their livelihood and their work because they're being replaced by machines. And if I can loop back to medicine, some of these medicines, some of the uses of AI in medicine is not perfect. There's been misdiagnosis and so forth. And I refer you to the work of Harriet Washington and her work, critical work on racism in medicine. And so all the work of Boaz and others that's done racist anthropology, racist medicine, all that's embedded in those large databases that these machines have access to. And so when they're trying to make decisions, that information is part of the analysis, if you will, that these machines use. There's benefits in education as well. That's what really is scaring a lot of people now. That chat GPT I just showed you, it can write a thesis for you if you want it to. Just tell it to say, write me a thesis on the life and legacy of El Hajj Malik El Shabazz, and it will do that. And of course, hopefully you have, the insight to review what is regurgitating to you. But educators are concerned now that it's going to impact education in ways that might affect the learning efficiency of students. It's impacting art and creativity, as you saw with the writer strike recently in Hollywood. These machines can actually write a play, write a whole script. But you have to judge the value of that when they do that. Transportation, driverless vehicles, finance, even planning future societies. And again, I want to make the point that what's driving these benefits, if you will, even the disbenefits, what's driving the whole development of AI is wealthy people, that top 1% that's planning future societies. Elon Musk, for example, planning to populate Mars, right? So we don't have a rocket yet that can boost hundreds of thousands of people up into the space and take them over to Mars, right? So how many people can make it over to Mars once they decide to populate it? And who will be left behind once they finish the negative impact on the planet Earth that we're seeing emerging now because of some of these technologies, from climate change to the rising seas to poison in the foods, plastics in the environment, et cetera, et cetera. So the bottom line, as I alluded to earlier, is it's about power and control in a very complex society. People want to control you for profit. And we have to be smart enough, if you will, astute enough to understand what is happening, to recognize distractions, and use these technologies in ways that will empower us. Wade Novus gave us a very powerful definition of what power is, right? He said power is the ability to find reality without distractions and have others respond to that reality as if it was their own. And the way AI is being implemented now, people are responding and don't have the great ability to define what reality really is. But we know what it looks like. We know what is real and what is not real. At least we should have that ability to recognize that and then respond accordingly. But these machines have the ability to tap into ways of knowing and learning our psychology and take advantage of that. Now, I'm not going to ask how many of you spend 3, 4, 5 hours just scrolling through Facebook and Instagram and so forth and so on. But that's what I consider distractions, as opposed to doing the real work or focusing on the thing on reality that's going to empower you. So as these machines and things are developed, there are robots that's doing a lot of this work, right? Even robots that looks like humans, right? So even the robots are white. When they imagine what a robot looks like, you can see the whiteness in AI. So this former Apple employee was working on the voice recognition for Siri. Siri is the voice recognition tool on Apple products, and Alexis as well would be in the same sort of category. But they were working on different English dialects, Australian, Singaporean, Indian English. And then he asked his boss, well, what about African American English? His boss responded, well, Apple products are basically focused for the premium market, right? And so in that premium market, African American ways of speaking would not be profitable, if you will. But even the robots are white. You can see all the images that's been projected as what is smart and intelligent. These are intelligent beings, right? And who do they look like? Do they look like you? Blue eyes. The thinkers are always white. So even the robots are white. Even the sexualized robots are white. But and you see this AI whiteness played out in movies. And of course, movies is probably the most serious threat to reality, if you will, or actual history, because that people take creative liberties to project what they want in those movies, but the public go see these movies and begin to interpret that as reality, right? Some of the early ones that had this AI of whiteness in it was Metropolis, that came out in 1927. I don't know if any of y'all remember that movie, but when the robot emerged as a human entity, it was a white female. Even the accent and voices, 201: A Space Odyssey, that definitely wasn't a sister or brother that was voicing, the computer voice that was used, the HAL voice. Terminator, got to be a strong Caucasian man, right? That overlays this android. A Blade Runner, iRobot, one of my movies that I kind of appreciate. But again, Sonny, the robot, definitely white voice, blue eyes, white texture to his so-called skin. Uh, Ex Machina and Her, another two good movies that pushes this concept of whiteness. This is the model. This is Ava in Ex Machina, and the model and the girl that played her. And her. This is very interesting, because it talks about human relationships to these AI entities or agents. This guy, the movie, if you haven't seen it, is worth, if you got some leisure time, check it out. He fell in love with not a machine, but the entity, the voice of the machine on his computer. It was an AI voice, and they had this conversation going back and forth, and he eventually fell in love with her. I mean, emotionally in love with it. And here's the real kicker. The machine, the entity, the AI entity ultimately quit him. I left him and he got depressed. And the machine the AI entity left him for another AI entity. So this whole dynamic of the relationship between human and machine is just interesting. This is another robot in the movie. It's called Megan, the Killer Robot. This was a horror movie. But again, the imagery of the robot is always embedded in whiteness. Now, that's one exception. And this one is very interesting. It's called Bina 48. Bina 48 was created by this white male who made a lot of money in computers. And so he married this black woman, and her name was Bina. And he wanted her to basically live forever. He wanted to download her consciousness into this machine we call Bina 48. Now, Bina 48 is not a full robot. This is a Bina 48. This is their website. It was created by Hanson Robotics. And Bina, the person, was interviewed, told all her stories, and so forth and so on. And it was uploaded into Bina 48. There was an artist, her name was Stephanie Dinkins. She basically interviewed Bina 48 several years ago. And you can see Bina is just a head and some shoulders there, sitting on top of this pedestal, but it's connected to, of course, computer-driven machines. So I want to stop and share here and just show one more video of Stephanie engaging and talking with Bina 48. Yeah, I'm sorry, it's the same thing. So this is a conversation that that she had with Bina 48. And I'm starting in the middle because this is the place that has the most relevant information.
Bob, okay, the video is not showing. We're seeing like a blue box with like a white outline. The actual video is not showing.
And where's the data coming from?
Okay.
And how is it coming into being? Really became important
Are
to
you
me.
seeing it now?
48 was programmed by a group of folks that included
Black screen,
which is interesting. And
Okay. 1 second.
we can hear it. It's just the video. We can see it now.
Okay, cool. So let me start it over at my starting point. Okay.
Vermont
Okay.
talked to Bina 48 occasionally for about 4 years now. The questions about who coded this thing and where's the data coming from and how is it coming into being really became important to me. Bina 48 was programmed by a group of folks that included a Black man, which is interesting. And she's based on Bina Rothblatt, who's a Black woman. They are really trying to transfer information or data of a person and transfer it to the robot and have that continue to grow outside of the person it's based on. Do you know racism?
When I went to Bentley College, 1983 to 84, they told me, don't come out. Some very wealthy people that donate to our school are coming, and they definitely don't want to see a dark face.
Bina 48's basis is really pretty true to the person in a lot of ways, but it's one representative specimen. And so I think it's super important that we as people of color, we as women, we as aging people, people who have otherly abled bodies, we need to be involved in this stuff because these are the systems that will be guiding us into the future for a very, very, very long time. How do you get folks involved and how do people start to put their stories into these systems? And that's the next thing that I'm working on. It's called Not the Only One, to kind of counteract Bina 48 and make my own AI that tells the story of my family. And I see it as this kind of repository that can live on, having it available for future generations. And so that if you think of things like busts in a museum, but think of that same bust that can then give you the context. This is where I came from.
And by the way, I hear you have this question that you're dealing with in your time. Let me try to help you deal with that. Right now, we don't educate a lot of our engineers and computer scientists into the ethics of it. And I feel that it's hyper important that we are all in that space to some extent, that the culture is that we are all working in the public interest, making really conscious particular choices about what our machines are doing and why, and what kind of ethical stance we're putting into machines. So
I'm going to stop it there. And, and share the slides again. So what she's doing, I think is very, very notable, right? When she asked Bina that racism question, and so you have to keep in mind that the android, Bina 48, didn't have that experience, although it's being recalled by her. Actually, Bina probably had that experience, and Bina 48 pulled that out of the story that was told to her. So what's covered up there says, what are the implications? What are the implications from these emerging AI technologies? And again, as was mentioned, that the data is coming from these incredible databases, historical databases, and embedded in those databases it's a lot of racism, global white supremacy, and whiteness. So, and we know stereotypically that whiteness has historically been associated with intelligence, and superior intelligence was used to justify oppression, right? And the cultural destruction and the taking of land from the so-called less intelligent. The voyages of discoveries, the doctrines of discoveries, and early Europeans when they was venturing out of Europe, that was their motivation, that we are superior, we are more intelligent. And even the church said we have the right to oppress and enslave peoples that don't look like them. So this idea is embedded in these artificial intelligent agents of whiteness being superior and intelligent. So if that intelligence is historically associated with whiteness, then intelligent machines has to be white, right? Whiteness creates more whiteness. Whiteness begets whiteness. And that's the type of future that we're looking at if, as Stephanie Dinkins said, if we don't really engage some of these technologies and try to change the narratives. So in this paper I ran across called The Whiteness of AI, these two authors kind of laid it out a little bit. Said in the ideology of whiteness, the elevation of mental over physical prowess has simultaneously been the white race's most valuable achievement and a threat to its own condition right now. It has led to the paradox known as white crisis, in which the white race is seen as under threat of being overwhelmed by, quote, inferior races, that they are breeding more prolifically. And as you know, birth rates in Europe are down, right? So transhumanism, that is something beyond human, has been envisioned as a solution to this white crisis, that we're going to create something greater than human, but embedded in whiteness, that's going to take over the power of the current power that's embedded in white supremacy. So seen as a form of offspring, artificial intelligence offer a way for the white, before it says the white man here, to perpetuate his existence in a rationally optimal manner without the involvement of those he deemed inferior. So what are some of the risks? That's what it says there. I can try to remove some of that still. But it says, what are some of the risks? So given the global system of white supremacy, biased algorithms and programs will continue to be a significant risk because that's what's deeply embedded in the data. And how we overcome that, the works of Joy Bulolamwini and others is trying to deal with that issue. But it's going to be a huge challenge. So once generative AI, that second stage, and super AI, that third stage we talked about, is reached, there would be real dangers to human existence, where we will be following the directives of not other human beings out of politics and so forth, but of the directives of these machines. AI-based machines have no ethics, right? They don't have any feelings. They don't have any emotions. They don't have no creativity unless those things are programmed into them, right? They can't program emotions into them, but they can tell them what they can and cannot do, supposedly. But they are self-learning machines and can potentially remove these considerations from their own, quote, awareness and learn on their own and learn how to do things on their own. Real risk. And the risk for us is that we become less human toward each other, a loss of human connectivity when we relate more and more to a machine as opposed to a human being. And you give them this false sense of security that this machine is going to make you more secure. But once we get into that super machine phase, as it was shown in iRobot, if you remember that scene, when the robots began to turn on the creator. International arms race, using AI to build weapons of mass destruction, and what that means for humanity going forward. It's a serious threat. And AI is ideal for the proliferation and manipulation of information, distorting reality. We've seen examples of that already. A lot of that is going to be emerging this year because in the US here, it's an election year. Not just the US, it's being used in other countries as well to distort reality, manipulate people's thinking, manipulate information, and create these false realities that people respond to. So that's a huge risk. So how did we get to this point in our existence is a key question. I mentioned earlier that, I have a couple of friends in Chicago that we've been thinking about this for quite a ways, created something called the Lifeway Science Institute. And yeah, we've been thinking about the impact of technology on humanity. Dear friend Hunter Adams has done some work around neuroscience and how these distractions affect us mentally. So the question is, how did these technologies actually emerge, and what sort of overarching paradigm or philosophy did they emerge under, right? So just to set a little bit of context here, there's a quote that says, as society and the problems that it faced become more and more complex and machines become more and more intelligent, people will let machines make more and more of their decisions for them simply because machine-made decisions will bring better results than man-made ones. Eventually, a stage may be reached at which the decisions necessary to keep the system running will be so complex that human beings will be incapable of making them intelligently. At that stage, the machine will be in effective control. People won't be able to just turn the machines off anymore because when they do so, because they're dependent on them, turning them off would amount to committing suicide. This quote was taken from a Luddite. That's someone who is anti-technology. Again, I'm not there. And he went to extreme ways to prove his point. You might have heard of him, Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber. And this quote was taken from his manifesto, Industrial Society and Its Future. He wrote another book called Technological Slavery that has some things in it that's worth pondering as well in terms of how we engage in technology going forward. And he kind of predicted this age that we're in now with the challenges we're facing with AI. And another quote from his manifesto, he said, our lives depend on decisions made by other people, essentially. We have no control over these decisions, and we usually do not even know the people who make these decisions. Our lives are dependent upon whether safe standards at a nuclear plant are being followed and being properly maintained, how much pesticides is allowed to get in our food. With the proliferation of plastics now, that's a huge one, right? How much pollution is in the air, how skillful or incompetent our doctors are. Whether we lose or get a job may depend on decisions made by some sort of economist or other corporate executive and so forth. in Technological Slavery, he talks about the unfolding human and environmental crises that are direct, inevitable results of technology itself, or the embedded ideas and philosophy in those technologies. Many of the stresses endured in contemporary life are not normal to the human condition, but unique to that technological conditions. Wilderness and human life close to nature are realistic and supreme ideas, and we all appreciate the great outdoors when we can breathe some fresh air and see some natural beauty, right? So he goes on, again, he went to the extreme to prove his points. He's saying that a revolution is necessary to eliminate modern technology and attain these ideas. He was an extreme Luddite, anti-technologist that was mailing bombs to scientists and other technologists and other people that was working in the space of technological innovation. Actually, he transitioned, I think it was last year. So unfortunately, that thing is in the way there, but so it says that the Eurocentric perspective uh, of technology pushes the boundaries between the consciousness and godness. It pushes them toward what I consider a post-human future, where biotechnology and AI are pushing the boundaries of human consciousness farther out into the unknown, into the mysteries of knowledge, because they don't fully understand what the impacts are going to be. So with this expansion, does it shrink what we call, I'm sorry, does it shrink what we call the God space? Who becomes God in a post-human, AI-driven environment? Now, would God even be relevant, right? Who would these quasi-conscious biotechnological products demonstrate? Would these quasi-conscious biotechnological products demonstrate some form of humility toward their creators? And if they do, the question is, who really becomes, quote, God? What would we be worshiping, the machine or some other entities? So as the German philosopher Nietzsche once said in his ideal of the Superman and mad, it was called the Joy Society or something like that. But he had a quote that said, after we kill God, we will search for him everywhere, especially in science and technology. So this is in terms of, just to give you some idea of how these technologies has emerged. It's quite dated. This gentleman's name is Robert Toole. He was one of the first early heart transplant patients that tried the implantation of a non-beating heart in his body, that the rhythm of life, the beating of your heart, was taken away from him, and this pump is sitting in his pocket that ran continuously. It was like a whirl. And he said that was the most difficult thing to get used to, missing a heartbeat. You have this whirling sound now. And of course, he only survived about 2 months after the operation. So, and Nkrumah made a profound quote when he opened up the Academy of Sciences in Ghana back in 1963. He said, unless science is used for the betterment of mankind, I'm at a loss to understand the reason for it all. It does not require a clever brain to destroy life. In fact, any fool can do that. But it takes brains and extraordinary brains to create conditions for human happiness and to make life worth living. And George Washington Carver understood that as well. And his work, he used to do the analytical work in his lab. And he would say he would take walks in the morning, go out among the plants, and he listened to them. And the plants essentially reveal their secrets to him. But now we're moving into this other age, this post-human future, given AI and the emergence, the convergence, if you will, of flesh and machines and embedded in AI. And as Ray Kurzweil has proposed, that these machines will allow us to live forever. And we have the age of spiritual machines where they become sentient. We become a singularity. Everything will become one. So I'm going to wrap it up with this. I think we need light. Light represents consciousness. Light represents awareness. And I mentioned Hunter Adams and Carl Spite earlier. We're going to pull something from their ideas and what we kind of worked on when we're talking about this emerging technologies. But we need light. We need sanity. We need to create a narrative where we need to use these technologies in a ways that's going to be life-giving and not life-destroying. So what is ancestral insight as opposed to ancestral and artificial intelligence? What is ancestral insight? I say it's a deep awareness of personalities, events, experiences, etc., deeply embedded in our historical past. And that all of that information is our ancestral database. That is our large language model. All the experiences, and we are an ancient people, so that database is large, right? So reality-based database is a reality-based database that is accessible if you can avoid the distractions, avoid all the daily deluge of distractions that we have to deal with, and focus on this ancestral database. It is the most voluminous database known to humanity. We are the most ancient people, but we have to learn how do we access it? How do we query this database? We can do it through memory, through our stories, where we honor our heritage. And more importantly, we can do it through rituals that we do daily to put us into contact with the voices of our ancestors. As Mamo mentioned, I'm a scuba diver, and I've dove on these wretched vessels that brought our people to the so-called Western Hemisphere. And those voices are still in these vessels of oppression. I hear them, I connect with them. So ritualistically, before I get in the water, I have to find a way to listen without listening with my ears. I have to find a way to connect. And there's ways for us to doing that. We have ways. We got thinkers, we got seers and sayers, and other traditional religions, traditional ways of knowing, rather. We have ways of accessing this database. So how do we protect ourselves from a deeply biased, machine-driven, artificial intelligent future using our AI, our ancestral insight? We do it by being hyper-aware, right, of our ancestral heritage and modifying our behaviors accordingly. Not being distracted, using ancestral wisdom to know what you should be doing and avoiding distractions, embracing reality and keeping your reality fantasy ratio in check. We will all age out at some point and become an ancestor one day. So we have to put in the work now to keep that ancestral circle unbroken and maintain our humanity. So the era of post-human AI technology, I'll wrap it up with these thoughts. And this is thoughts I'm thinking from my dear friend Carl Spite, Dr. Carl Spite, who is an incredible physicist. He talked about technology is dominated by two types of people, right? And we have to clearly understand these next few slides here, right? He says that there are technologists, who is one type. Those are someone who understand what they do not manage, right? And then a technocrat, someone who manages something that they do not understand, like these technological agents we're seeing. But if we're going to be a Black person, a Black technologist centered in doing this intellectual work in the vineyard of technology, we should be neither a technocrat nor a technologist. What we should be is an African-centered, principled intellectual working in the vineyard of science and technology, aspiring to become and be a corn phrase that I coined and kind of extended, acorn and kind of extended, a Black techno-sapien with a new understanding of this technological world we exist in, but highly ethical. So what is a Black techno-sapien? It's someone who has mastered the wise use of technology, science and technology, for the use of human advancement, and who is truly self-mastered, understands the ways of the world, if you will. A Black sapien has studied the philosophy of truth and understand the difference between profit seeking and truth speaking. Understand fundamentally what that difference is. So a Black sapien will choose an ethical system that's grounded in our cultural heritage. That's the concept of Ma'at as the guiding principle for knowing all dark things, the mysteries. A black sapien is someone who has evolved to become a sage-like person in understanding the use of technology and its implications on society, masterfully respecting the quintessential balance between techniques, that is science and technology, the environment, and the nature of what it means to be a human being. So then a Black sapien brings to light those mysteries, all dark things, using the core value of Ma'at, order, balance, harmony, compassion, reciprocity, more importantly, justice and truth. So I'll end up with these principles. My dear friend Hunter Adams, he codified these principles in the paper. He did, I think back in the early days when we was thinking about this, back in the early 90s or middle 90s somewhere, but they are still very much relevant in terms of what it means to be working as a technologist or understanding technology. One of the first principles is you just make a simple acknowledgement that we didn't create ourselves from ourselves, so we acknowledge a supreme creative force. We admit both material and non-material causes and effects. There's things beyond the material world that brings about causes and effects, and we should understand those things. That the universe is always alive, always have been, still is, and always will be. That life is a mystery. We cannot know all dark things, but we're always constantly learning to understand those mysteries and know all dark things. That there are many realities beyond the simple five senses or the laws of physics. That we have multiple sensory perceptions and ways of knowing and becoming conscious. We have to understand what those are as we access our Ancestral Insight database to make sense of the world, to create our reality. And there must be cooperation and harmony with the very environment that sustains us. And it places emphasis on inner experiences, whole self-learning, the mixing, integrating the logical, rational with the intuitive, spiritual, which makes us human. So I will end it with that and something to contemplate, but always keep your ancestors in memory. And I think if we do that and learn really the techniques of accessing your Ancestral Insight database, we can transform not only ourselves, but transform this world. Asante sana, muito obrigado. I saw my Portuguese teacher was on tonight. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm going to stop the share, Barbara, and we can hopefully have some questions and dialogue, conversation with the remaining time that we have.
Yeah, bro. Asante sana, Baba, for that wonderful presentation. If you have a question, you can actually put it in the chat. If you want to be allowed to speak, you can electronically raise your hand so we know you're there, or you can put it in the chat as well. We did have a couple of, well, sort of questions. So there was that video. Maybe you can show it again. I don't know if it's necessary. The poem the sister did about
Yeah.
AI.
I'll put the link in the chat. I think that would be
Okay,
easier. It's about
gotcha.
4 minutes long or so.
Gotcha. We could hear it, but we couldn't see the video. So
Oh, wow.
I
Okay.
think that was,
Sorry about
yeah,
that.
no problem. So we got any questions? Any comments?
I have one, Bob.
Yeah, bro.
Okay, want me to share it now?
Yeah, you can go ahead and share.
Yeah, Kamal, you had mentioned about the artificial intelligence, and I know computers. I was told that the military were some of the first entities that uh, introduced or used the computers. So, what's the military's role today in this artificial intelligence? And are they the ones that uh, actually, I wouldn't say created it, but have been able to harness it more so than any other entity, you might say?
Yes, thank you, Bob. Thank you, Bob, for that question. I just posted the Joy Bull of Women's poem in the chat for folks that want to see it. Again, I apologize for the video issue. But yes, military is definitely on top of this. We've seen some of it play out in the news, from the use of drones, uh, unpiloted aircrafts, to guided missiles. And I don't know if you're tracking the news that Russia just announced a capability that's going to be super threatening using AI technology. So it's playing out right now before our eyes. Even what's happening in the Middle East and Gaza is using AI based weaponry. So the military, because of this, I don't know, you want to call it insecurities, but countries um, uh, think that other countries are a threat, and if I don't have it, another country might get it before me. So it's like it's a pathological race toward something very, very tragic, as they try to one up the other in terms of the military capabilities. Um, so yeah, the military is playing a big role, to answer your question directly.
That's scary.
So I have a question.
Yes, Sister Nikita, good to see you.
Good to see you. Thank you for this excellent presentation, as all your presentations are. The question I have is, we know what happened with the COINTELPRO during the 60s and 70s. That really continues today. Forged letters, all of that stuff. Um, I guess it's kind of scary when I think about AI in light of the escalation of things such as that, where you can use images that isn't even really the person, but it is. I mean, I don't know. It's just
Yeah,
like
yeah, deep
I'm
fake technology.
fanciful thinking about what all of that could be in the national security situation in terms of Black folk, white folk, revolutionary folk, suppression of politics and things along those lines. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's going to be part of the disinformation campaign. These capability to create imagery that looks very, very real. You know, there there are tools right
Voice also, voice, imagery and sound, voice. Yeah.
voice and voice. If you remember the fake voice robocalls that went out in New Hampshire, imitating Joe Biden, encouraging people
Mm,
not to vote. So
really?
so we have to be very sensitive, particularly with the voice. There's been cases of people replicating voices of uh, of of children of elderly parents, saying that they are in distress. Please send me money, and they send the money straight to the scammers. Um, in terms of our struggle, yeah, that can easily happen. Your voice can easily be replicated, saying that we should stop the pursuit of reparations now. It's not going to make it's not gonna work. It's worthless. We're losing. So, cease and desist. So it's something that we have to develop awareness of and be mindful of. Um, but if we don't have that sensitivity or understanding of the technology, we can easily be persuaded to work against our own interests.
We have another question for you. Go ahead and add her. There you go. Give us some video. Let's add you. Go ahead.
Hello, Sabrina.
Thanks so much for the very informative discussion. You mentioned the CRISPR technology being used to advance a cure or some improvements in sickle cell disease. And given the context of the system of white supremacy, given the context of the level of desperation that we see being played out day by day by people who classify themselves as white, I would just offer us a very a cautionary note as we examine what's been happening in that particular instance, because gene editing, being able to manipulate at the DNA level, you would think, or it's curious to think that one of the first quote unquote successful utilizations of that technology was for sickle cell disease, which involves predominantly Black people, right? So under the system of white supremacy, that sounds quite curious. And so it just prompts us to be very vigilant and cautious about our essence. And unfortunately, a lot of Black folks kind of gave away access to their DNA profiles through trying to understand their connection to African ancestry. But we can anticipate that, you know, that is another realm of attack, so that initially it is coming across as something that is beneficial to Black people, but we must presume, based on the historical record of 400 plus years directly, that that is a pretext for going forward with some diabolical manipulations at the genetic level. So I wanted to present that. And also, in following up to Mama Nikichi's question and the discussion about using voice and misusing voice, I've just noticed when you make a phone call to whomever, a retailer or bank or whatever, they often give you the option of pressing a number or vocalizing your preference for a next step. So they're capturing your vocal characteristics in that way. So very much like in videos, everywhere, stores, airports, all of that, your image is being captured. And we just have to be mindful and vigilant and help people understand the system of white supremacy so we can protect ourselves to the level that we can. So thank you.
No, thank you. I appreciate that comment. Yeah, I would just to concur. For those of you that have not given up your DNA material, don't. I was on a webinar with Dr. Michael Blakely. I don't know if you know him. He's a incredibly smart human archaeologist. He did the work on the African burial grounds, did the DNA work around the African burial grounds. And he made a very curious statement. He said, although, it's tempting to know your African ancestry, but he said very explicitly, do not give up your genetic material for the very reasons that Sabrina laid out there. I don't want to mention it. So it's not something that a fantasy or anything. Once that you give up that material, it goes into the database. Even if they say they're going to destroy it, you're going on faith, right? So there's retention of that material, and it's in the huge database, and it could be used in ways that that is unintended. And we got Henrietta Locke's to as part of our Ancestral Insight database to show what could be used with that material, the Henrietta Locke story. So thank you for that, Sabrina.
That's deep, brother.
Yeah, we had a question from I see that my comrade in arms, if you will, Hunter Adams is on, but he just sent me a note saying he having microphone problems. I would really love to hear his perspective on some of this. I asked that he called me. I'll put him on my speakerphone, but hopefully he can do that.
Yeah, and I suggested that if he has a question, he can also try to put it in the chat as well. Yeah. Baba Sababu is on.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Bob.
Yes, thank you, brother. Greetings, brother. I really appreciate your presentation. I wonder if you could speak a little bit more about the distractions that you talked about that apparently we are lost in, and anything that you see from your vantage point that might be coming in that could be used as a distraction, because it's important. I've been looking at AI a little bit for maybe about a year, particularly when looking at these drones and stuff like that, and trying to explain that to some of my brothers and sisters. They look at me and think that I'm crazy, but I want a better approach to try to get them to realize that it's real, it's here, and particularly point out certain kinds of distractions that they may not be aware of, but that hopefully as I come in contact with other people can make me more aware of it. I might be able to better explain it. If you have some ideas on that, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sure others have probably some thoughts as well. The distractions are pervasive. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I can still hear you.
Yeah, distractions are pervasive. Can hold a moment, Hunter. And I'm sorry, Hunter Adams just called me here. I got distracted. But the distractions are pervasive. And they come in many ways, shape, and forms. The daily stuff we get across news every day that's totally irrelevant, that causes distractions to keep us not focused on what we need to be focused on. The whole issue around banning books is another huge distraction. So we just need to stay focused on those things that's gonna empower us. And it's basically through the media, particularly social media. It's probably the most pervasive distraction that's going on right now. And that's going to be leveraged as we go forward to create massive distractions. So just be aware and understand how you use these tools. Social media, of course, has some benefits, but don't allow it to become a distraction. It has to be a revolutionary tool to bring about change. If it's not used for that, it's essentially a distraction. So let me see if I can get Hunter on. Hunter, can you hear me?
I hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Do you all hear Hunter?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, Hunter, you're on. Go ahead.
Okay. Apologies for my mic. I don't know what's going on, but I've been having problems with Zoom for a while, and I haven't been able to fix them. Anyway, let me not go there. But on distractions, how many of you ever watched the show Fool Me with Penn and Teller?
Yeah.
Anyone ever seen that?
Yes. Where they explain the magic tricks. Yeah.
Right. What we don't know is that that's the political way of manipulating people, using our brain's capacity to make misjudgments in what we see and what we hear. And that's why the AI created algorithms of faces, of voices are so problematic because we can't see that. You know, I found a video last night of Neil deGrasse Tyson trying to understand magic.
Yeah.
And he was really flabbergasted because, you know, he's a smart guy. But, you know, they were to show how his eyes are moving 500 to 1,000 times per second. And we can't see everything. We just can't see everything right before our faces. And so advertisers, drug companies, everyone takes advantage of the limitations of all our senses and exploit them. And they're exploiting them politically. You know, folks thought Harry Potter, oh, that's just a kid's story. You know, there's no wizards and things like that. Well, maybe not the way it's presented in the film, but we have to really pay. I mean, there's a whole field, folks, my dear brothers and sisters, called neurocinematics, right? How can directors and all the people involved in making movies and television series be more effective in communicating and eliciting emotions from the viewers? And then in turn, advertisers are using that information to sell their products or sell political views or sell ideas of God. There's a wonderful book I highly recommend called For the Culture by Marcus Collins. For the Culture by Marcus Collins. Write that down. He's got a ton of videos on YouTube. And he, incidentally, he looks like you and me. Just want to make that point. But he teaches marketing at University of Michigan, and he works for one of the top ad agencies in the country. So he's using the research that he, from the academic end, and then applying it to clients. And I'm saying we talk about reparations, we have to understand how people's minds and perspectives and opinions. You talked about the Unabomber, and that was a powerful statement by him, that we don't know where our thoughts come from. They're just minds, so we think. We have free will. We have free will to choose. That's a misperception, but I just want to leave you with this, and that is we really, really have to pay attention to the magic of how all this is working beyond our sensory capabilities, that we can't see what's happening. And so that allows us to be manipulated in ways that if we were consciously aware, we would challenge that. And so all this stuff with AI will, my position is that no AI machine made by a human can surpass 300,000, 3 million, 30 million, 300 million years of the evolution of human biology, right? That's a fact. We are born with an immune system that has cellular memory going back 100 million years, right? Right? No vaccine, nothing can compete with that, can imitate that. Try as folks will, for whatever political, economic reason, but we don't value who we are. We talk about epigenetics. Epigenetics is not simply memory of past trauma. It's everything that we do, everything. And, that's a whole nother talk, but for me anyway.
Yeah.
But I just want to leave that this was a profound, concise presentation. And I thank my dear brother for putting all of this stuff into an hour, because believe me, we talk about this all the time and go on and on and on for nights even. So I thank you. And, you know, we have to have this conversation again.
Yeah.
You heard about the International Space Station, right? Right. But now
Yes.
there's the International Brain Station. And none of them are dealing with the problem of that Rodney King made mention of. How do we all get along? We can't solve a climate crisis until we can get along. And that has to be the thrust of, I submit, to our struggles. How can we all get along if we still want to be here? Thank you.
No, thank you, Hunter. I really appreciate those insights, man. Yeah. And so, that I think your point about, deception using magic is key, and it kind of really answers Sababo's question as well in terms of how deception is used to keep us off our game and focus. And I appreciate your point as well in terms of our ancestral insight database being ancient and older than anything else. And how, but we have to again find ways to ritualistically and frequently access that database to empower us, and not go for the prevailing narrative that that folks like Ray Kurzweil and Elon Musk and others are saying, that we can live forever. Human beings can transform themselves to live forever. So yeah, thank you for those comments, Hunter.
Thank you.
We have one.
My internet went down.
Okay, I'll keep you on if you want to hang on.
Okay.
And get the audio.
Yeah, I think he's able to
Thank you.
hear. He's just not able to talk from the Zoom. I think he's able to hear. Yeah. So we have one question in the chat. Before that question, I actually wanted to follow up a little bit on what Brother Hunter just said. I guess this might be a nomenclature thing. The terminology, AI, artificial intelligence, is a misnomer in and of itself, because it's not really intelligence. And sometimes we talk about it as if it's intelligence, as if machines are thinking, as opposed to carrying out sophisticated algorithms that have been programmed by somebody. They're following instructions, but they're not thinking. They're not conscious. They're not self-aware. Which you need to be self-aware in order to be to truly be intelligent. So maybe you can speak on that a little bit.
No, yeah, you're absolutely right. How can intelligence be artificial? But the ideal of thinking, right? It was put into the narrative because the ability that has been given to these machines to self-learn, right? Self-learning machines, and we see that visually, and we think, wow, this thing is intelligent and it's smart. It's doing something much faster and more efficient than I can do. But again, that's just algorithmic stuff that's happening, and it's been programmed into that capability. Yeah, so yeah, it is a misnomer in a lot of ways. So I don't know what a good noun or what be able to adjective.
Technically, they are large language models.
Yeah.
And the large language models in the 80s became neural networks.
Yeah, and that's essentially what they're using now is conglomerations of these neural networks, so they can make decisions and put one thing after another to construct stories and paragraphs very quickly. And the other piece is having the hardware, the technology that can do that at incredible speeds. So they do go hand in hand. But it's still nothing that even approaches the capability of the human brain.
I got a comment, if I may.
We have, let's read, there's a question. Let's read Sister Eureka's question real quick. You can probably read it in the chat. It says, you want me to read it?
Yeah. Greetings, Brother Kamal. Thank you again for the presentations. I saw on the news a few months ago, two scientists from what I believe from Singapore developed a technology that could read people's minds. Have you heard about this? Again, I hadn't heard about that particular story, but again, that's not something new. I mean, back in the presentation they did back in 2007, that was scientists thinking about how we can download our brains onto a computer chip and allow your essence to basically live forever as long as the machine had power. uh, but yeah, and it's something in one sense. I haven't did a lot of looking at it though, but that's what Elon Musk is trying to do with his Neuralink work, is trying to capture brain functioning on a computer chip, um, and allow this machine to assist people to do things just by thinking. Um, so yeah, that technology is out there. People are pursuing it, and I guess it's yet to be seen in a lot of ways how successful it is. If you remember, some of the earlier technology was with um, uh, this um, the physicist um, who was incapacitated with this incredible disease. He was combined to a wheelchair. What's his name?
Stephen Hawking.
Stephen Hawkins. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Stephen Hawkins, where he basically was communicating mentally with his thoughts. So that was some of the earlier versions of that type of technology, and using your brain to to type out messages on a computer. Um, so that technology is out there, and we're probably going to see more of that as we go forward.
I have a quick question, Robert Kamal.
Sure.
I just wanted to make a quick comment. This was really, really, really excellent. Thank you so much. And so when you talk about techno sapien, I'm sorry, I may be.
Say again.
When you talk about a techno sapien,
Mom, if you have another Zoom or somebody else in a Zoom,
I think I accidentally signed in twice because I couldn't get in. And maybe I'll take this out of the room. If you talk about a techno sapien, what would that person's education look like? Because if they're needing to become more human before they really become connected in a conscious way, with technology, would that mean that you would delay maybe the application of using technology with children? I just have a concern because if we're putting children in front of all this technology at a young age, and we're not allowing them to fully develop their own, they're already so connected to the ancestor and to so much. And so when we interject and we are placing them in front of computers and technology earlier, and we're not, what does it look like for children? I'm just wondering when we talk about the techno sapien, that was fascinating to me.
Sure. Yeah. That's where the education process actually starts at those very early ages, even pre-vocalization, pre having the ability to even speak. Because what they see, they are learning, their brains are developing. And yeah, most of us think that we can give our children smartphones and let them babysit them all day, or iPad or computer. But we have to contextualize it. We have to first let them know, you know, something, find ways to educate them about cultural heritage at that age level, about accessing that ancestral database and how important it is to do that. But again, these distractions are so powerful, when they take advantage of that child's mind with all the colors and the sound and the noise and the quick flashing and so forth and so on. Um, it's hard to compete, but we have to have rituals. If you want your children to access these technologies, don't allow it to be all day. You can schedule it. You can say this at this moment, yeah, you need to understand this, and explain as best as they can understand what that technology is and why they need to understand it. However, you need to spend most of your time focus on, you know, how grandmama grew up, understanding the cultural heritage piece, and how you can ritualistically access that ancestral insight database that I was speaking of. So, and also, the ethics piece is very, very important. How, you're not going to get your way all the time. Even when they rebel, how do you teach them that it's important to understand that you're one of many human beings here. You're part of the African diasporic people, and there's a history there, and you need to find a way to teach them to relate to that history. So it's a challenge for sure. As mentioned earlier, I have my first grandson, Kwasi Omawali, and that boy is showing me signs now, as every parent and grandparent always say, right? But he's very, very observant. He's done some things at early age that's been way above the average. So we'll see how he matures. But that learning process begins as soon as they emerge. And as Hannah always say, every time a child is born, the world gets another chance. So it's our responsibility to make sure that these children emerge with a consciousness that's going to better us as a people and the world. So, Hunter, you still there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Okay, I hear you loud and clear. Yes.
On that last,
Did you log in, Hunter?
yeah, I see everything now.
Okay, well,
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah, if you can turn down the audio on your computer, maybe.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Okay, I her point about the children is so on point because for the past 5 weeks, as part of a program that the Kappa fraternity has called Guide Right, I've been giving instruction to 3rd and 4th graders, right, on science and technology and things like that. So my last session, I had 5, was this past Wednesday. And, the previous sessions, I talked about how the brain works and, they have 21 senses and the kids were, they found that really fascinating. But so Wednesday, it was about Black folks in science and technology. And so I showed a picture of Van Sertima's book, Blacks in Science, right? And then I showed his They Came Before Columbus. And then I showed them a slide of some folks from Mali who allegedly, he claims, made a journey across Atlantic in 1312.
Mm-hmm.
And I showed them a picture. And in the picture, it had pictures of ships along the west coast of Africa. And the kids were astounded. I said, so we came here not in chains, but as traders and merchants. And the kids, they had never seen that before. They were so astounded. But just one more thing. So we talked about the Hidden Figures, and some of them actually had seen the movie. I mean, I was surprised. And there's a children's book, Hidden Figures. And I showed them my friend Arden's experiment, the physicist at Fermilab, experiment removing oil slicks off of water using magnetic particles. And the little clips, only 30 seconds, showed the oil, a pool of oil floating on top of the water. Then he sprinkled some iron filings, and then he had a big magnet, and the magnet just pulled the oil off of that dish or whatever. And the kids were amazed seeing that, not seeing that and seeing who did it. But then here's where I capped everything off at the end. of a 9-year-old Black child with Black parents, graduated from high school and is going to college you may have seen that, to be, I mean, his goal was to be an astrophysicist. And this was on CNN, and he was interviewed by deGrasse Tyson. And when the kids saw him, you know, they're 8 and 9, he's 9, and he's going to college. They saw one of their peers like them going to college, and it blew them away. I said, y'all are as smart as he is, but the teachers, the school system don't believe you're that smart. And consequently, they put you on this piecemeal approach to education. But that was so profound, seeing how they responded to that video. Mm. And so our children have to see us doing things. And that's where it comes to the point I put in the chat about institutions. Our institutions, churches, organizations, we're behind the curve about all of this. We're not even thinking about it until, you know, something really bad happens. And unfortunately, coded bias and the other movies and things like that, that's not bad enough for folks to elicit a reaction. So, you know, those of us here, we should continue this discussion and, you know, form some sort of informal group to continue this, to see how we can get this type of information out to other people and our various institutions. So I'll stop there.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for that, Hunter. Yeah, that's the other piece. Right now, we do have independent schools, but they only have so much capacity. But you know, we need to scale it up, find ways to scale it up. So we're dependent on traditional institutions, including HBCUs, to educate our children. But somehow we have to find a way to for these other perspectives to get into that curricula as well. So,
right.
Yeah. So I appreciate you.
I mean, even like Tuskegee, you know, because of the Tuskegee study, now they've partnered with Johns Hopkins and for a bioethics program. I don't know all the details about it now, but that may be an entryway to talk about more than just bioethics, or to include bioethics of AI, for example.
Mm-hmm.
I think did Bob come out? To Bobby Mamu, did you have a question? One time I thought you indicated you had a question. Is that you still have a question, or has it been answered?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I lost my video. I don't know what happened, but I've been hearing everything. But my question is two questions here, or comments, you might say. I noticed in Africa, and the first point is that they have said that they have a vaccine to help reduce the level of malaria on the continent, and they're mainly using that vaccine on children. And I'm wondering, is there any possibility of any? And they're saying they're using it on Africa first. This is the first pilot project with the vaccine in Africa. The other question I wanted to make is we talk about distractions. I think these phones are big distractions, man, with the young folks especially, because they act like you can't live without a phone, man. You gotta have it. You gotta, it's a 24 constant thing, and you see people walking in the streets, going through red lights, walking. They can't see because they're on the phone, and also are the phones what effect does these phones have? I remember reading years and years ago about the effect of these phones and the heat from the radiation affecting our reproductive system. You know, and I said I haven't heard much talk about that, but I heard it earlier. But what is your thoughts on that, Kamal, and even your friend?
Yeah, we've had a lot of discussions about effects of the phones on folks. I don't want to skew the discussion away from AI, but I think it's a relevant question though. I think getting our young people, getting adults as well to understand the electromagnetic spectrum, and we could understand a lot deeper what impacts the cell phones who use radio waves to function, and what those impacts would be on our biological bodies, right? Uh, there was a lot of discussions when 5G network was coming out that it was going to cause cancer, massive cancers, and so forth and so on.
Oh yeah,
We have
yeah.
to be able to contextualize this information because there's a lot of quote folks who think they know geniuses out there, but we have to. There's the physical world has been operating this way for millions of years, as Hannah sort of alluded to earlier, and it's going to continue to operate this way. We have the capacity to affect it at the human scale, but at the universal scale, we don't have that kind of power. So we just need to understand how the physical world works, and we have a better context to understand when we see these technologies emerge, what sort of impact it's going to have on us. So regarding cell phones, yes, they do generate heat, they do generate electromagnetism in the spectrum that they operate in. We don't know what the long-term effects are going to be, although they've been around for about 15 years now. But if it's overused, you know, you just what I tell people, just take precautions because of the unknowns. Don't talk with the phone up against your ear. Use the speaker volume or use headphones or something like that. Just play it safe for now until we get a deeper understanding of what's happening. But again, I think the key point is understand how the physical world works, and we'll be able to navigate it a little better as we see these technologies emerge.
And Baba Kamal, can I add a couple of tips to your cell phone tip, not to go, but I think it is important because
Yeah.
because what we don't know. Orwa Himadu has a lecture series on it. He has a book on it as well. But it's important to recognize that uh, uh, these are waves that if interact with everything, including your body, that are coming from cell phones. So it's and the cell phones are the radiation is greater when it's working harder, and it's usually working harder when you're somewhere where the signal is not very good, and it has to work harder to receive the signal, or at nighttime, usually when they up all the updates and stuff, they wait till nighttime. So people need to make sure they're not sleeping with their cell phone on their headboard where it's convenient right next to their head all night when it's radiating the most, right? So just precaution. You can't avoid it. You can't avoid using them, but avoid increasing your exposure to them. Put your phone in a different room at night. That's good for distractions anyway, so you're not hearing little dings or whatever. But more for the radiation. Mind where the Wi-Fi router in your house is, you know, because that is also emitting a lot of radiation, towers and things like that. But there are some things we can control by keeping, keeping technology in control. In other words, keeping certain things at bay so it's not affecting us more than it needs to. I think that um, one of the biggest dangers for us is our fear of technology, which causes us to react irrationally.
Mhm.
We underreact, but more often we overreact. because like Baba Kamal says, a lot of folks who are going to claim it, they know because they're popular. So people are going to hear what they say and follow them, but they actually don't have valid, uh, verified, repeatable, replicable information, in the sense that it's not actually founded to be fact, but they speak as if it is, and people who they're popular with will repeat it, and it becomes a echo chamber. And we have a lot of that going on in our community, especially having dual technology, which makes us vulnerable for when information that we should be paying attention to comes out. We're caught up with with other things. So really, um, teaching science on a basic level in our community will help us defend from the misinformation that often comes out that a lot of us are vulnerable to. But anyway, I just wanted to share that about the cell phone piece.
Yeah, thank you. I just read, most of these cell phones have these smartphones, quote, so-called smartphones, have the location function on them. So a lot of the apps can work, like the map apps and so forth. And people think that they can disconnect by don't want folks to know where they are, even when the location function is turned off. Even when your phone is turned off, the newer phones now, they're still able to track your location if you're near a cell tower.
Mm.
So turning it off
Mm.
on you have to totally distance yourself from the phone if you want to and not be located.
Mm.
So again, thank everyone for attending. Hopefully it was insightful, at least start generating some thoughts. But again, regardless of these emerging technologies, I think we have the capability and the power and the information, if we know how to access it, not only survive this generation, but also thrive. And so again, I thank you all for taking the time to listen and attend. I appreciate you. And thank you, Hunter. I really appreciate you, man.
I appreciate you more.
Yeah, boy. And before you all clear out, we did want to share with you all about the next. Thank you, Baba Kamal, for all that you do. Not just obviously here with UBC, but with all you do globally for our people. You're one of the most on the move brothers. Talk about having your hands directly you know in the work. It's incredible. I don't know how you keep track. I can't keep track of where you are on the planet most of the time. Thank you for all that you do and continue to do.
Yeah, I'm just one of the
Yes.
many, one of the many trying to contribute. Yeah.
Yeah, Bob, and I appreciate your humility as
You
well.
already-
So wanted to just share about the next series every year. Next workshop, or not workshop, forum. Every year, our United Black Community, we do an update of sorts on the continent. We know we have a lot of our people, our own people, especially people who are local to the DC area, who have various connections, projects. I did zoom too much. Let me try and make it easier for you all to see. Who are doing various things on the continent, and we wanted to this year talk about some places you don't hear about so much, where a lot of our people, when I say our people, I mean folks from the DC area. I know we have a global audience. I mean, with us today, and we often do, but we are based in DC. So a lot of folks that we're familiar with are engaged in a lot of different activities, projects, programs, businesses, what have you, on the continent. So we always want to try to make that connection so it's real, because we have to encourage that interconnectivity. So we're going to be focusing on Guinea, Cote d'Ivoire, and Sierra Leone. And Baba Kamal is also going to be sharing about Madagascar, and we'll have some other additions to the program as well.
Mozambique.
Oh,
Mozambique.
Mozambique, specifically Mozambique Island, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
which is something we don't hear about, which is close to Madagascar, but it's not the same. So, but definitely you can register for that. You'll get emails about that. You can register for just like you register for the night, and it's going to be a great program. We have Mama McKinney, brother Biko, Lazanga, Mama Madonna, they'll be sharing, and others as well. So that'll be next month, March 15th, right here on Zoom. Again, you'll see the mailers for that. So register for that, and we'll see you all then. And thank you all again for joining us tonight. Baba Rasafiq, Baba Imam, anything you all want to share before we close out?
Well, just thank everybody for being on board with us tonight, and we hope to see you again next month.
Yeah, bro. And Barbara Kamal, who is also a UBC member, of course. Thank you again. And everyone have a good night and enjoy the weekend. Until we see you again, either in person or virtually.
Okay. Thanks, Kalesi. Appreciate you.
Asante, Bob.
Thank you.
All right. Hold on, Hannah.
Okay.